This is my 1987 Porsche 944 Turbo. About 4 months ago, I had to replace the short block because of bore scoring and stuck piston rings. So I had a Dratus build me a short block with steel sleeves and Wasner pistons. But with all old cars, the work is never done. Stick around while I continue to repair and improve this modern classic. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing more work on my 1987 944 Turbo. I am going to be upgrading the fuel pump. This is a Bosch HV or high volume fuel pump. Is it necessary?
No.
Probably not. I'm not pushing anywhere near 400 or 500 horsepower with this car, but I figure with the upgraded turbo, which is the Evergreen Raptor X, it certainly couldn't hurt to have a little bit more fuel. So since I'm going to be playing with gas anyway and I don't want to have to do it again, I figure I might as well replace the fuel filter as well. So I am going to crack the torque on the rear wheel, get the car up in the air, pull the rear wheel, and then we'll take it from there. So I have the rear wheel off and I have the car up in the air. I'm going to open the garage door so I can let in a little bit more light and hopefully a little bit of heat from the sun. And we'll get underneath the car and I'll show you what I'm going to do to replace that fuel pump and that fuel filter. And I want to preface this video by saying that this is not a tutorial on how to do this. If you want a really great tutorial, I suggest you check out the NC944ER YouTube channel. He's a great guy, extremely thorough, and gives some of the best tutorials on working on 944s that you could ever find. So this video will be a documentation of my own process of how I'm going to go about it. And on the late 944s, they have a cover for the fuel filter. On the early 944s, so that would be in the US in 83 or in 84 or 85, the fuel filter is actually exposed. It's kind of tucked up in behind this part of the body, but it is exposed. And in 85 and a half, they started to put these covers. So it's actually two separate covers. There's one smaller cover here and then a larger cover. The larger is held on by this strap here, which attaches up to the frame via this bolt. So when you undo this bolt, it releases this strap and then you can get this cover off. So I'm going to start by pulling this smaller cover. There are typically two screws, one here, and you see I'm missing one there. But I'm going to pull out this screw, get this cover off, and then we'll actually be able to see the fuel filter inside of the cover. I like to use these shallow storage bins that you can get from Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware or Walmart or anywhere. They're a great resource to be able to help catch any fluid that's going to be coming out. It is inevitable. You are going to spill some gas when you work on the fuel pump or the fuel filter. So I like to use one of these to catch any of the fluids. I also use it when I'm changing the oil or the coolant. It's just a great way to help capture any fluid that might not get into whatever bin you're using to collect it. So I have the shield that covers the fuel pump off, and you can see it's just kind of hanging right now. Now normally from the factory there is a clamp that attaches to that cover and around this rubber isolator for the fuel pump. My apologies for the noise, I've got neighbors blowing leaves. This is real world, folks. You can see it attaches with this fuel line to the fuel filter, and the fuel filter is held on by this hose clamp to the transaxle brace up right above it. So I'm going to start by removing this clamp so that I can pull this supply line from the tank to the fuel pump. And what you want to do first is clamp this hose, because you are going to get fuel to spill, but you want to minimize it as much as possible. So what I do is I use a set of vice grips wrapped in a towel so I don't wear on any of the hose. And then I also have a number of vacuum line caps that I use to try to plug the end of the line, because even with this hose clamped, some fuel is going to spill. So if I can get in there fast enough and plug up that line with one of these fittings, that'll help keep the mess to a minimum. So I'm under the car because I had to remove the wiring from the back of the fuel pump because I could not get that connector separated. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck this wire harness up out of the way and then get focused on removing the fuel pump. So I have the fuel pump disconnected from the fuel filter, and as you can see, it definitely pays to have a catch pan. So I've got the fuel filter off. It normally sits right here. So this clamp holds it onto the transaxle brace. Here you can see where it joins to the fuel line to go up to the engine. I previously replaced this fuel line as well as this fuel return line that goes up above the fuel tank and attaches to the fuel level sender. So these I don't have to worry about because I know that they were replaced less than a year ago. So while I'm under here, I'm just going to put the new fuel filter on and then I'll focus on the fuel pump. All right, I've got the new fuel filter installed and tightened down to the fuel feed line that goes to the motor. And you can't see it here, but there is an arrow pointing in the direction of the flow and it points this way. So you really can't mess it up anyway. The way that the connections are, it really only goes one way, but you just want to make sure. And I have the clamp tightened down, so this isn't going anywhere. You can see there is movement because it's attached to a rubber isolator. But now that this is back on, I can get back out and focus on the fuel pump. All right, I've got the fuel pump attached to the fuel supply line from the tank. I've got that all attached to the fuel filter, and I have all of the fittings tightened up. Just one thing to call out, because this is the high volume fuel pump, the nozzle on the front side of the fuel pump is larger than the factory one, so it was a little bit of a struggle to get it within this fuel feed line, but it did go, and I was able to get this clamp good and tight around here. So the next step is to get in the car and energize the fuel system so that I can check and see if there are any leaks. Now, normally on a 944, you have to try to start the car for that, but I have the Focus 9 DME relay with the pump prime feature, so all I need to do is set the key to position 1 and it will start the fuel pump. All right, so we energized the fuel pump. I do not see any leaks coming from anywhere. So now it's time to get the cover panels on. This should be pretty straightforward. While I'm under here, I'm just going to do a quick check on all of the axle flange bolts, make sure that nothing is loose. And these feel pretty good. You might see some X's on there. So when I replaced the clutch on this car the first time back in the spring and replaced the torque tube, you have to pull the transaxle out, which means you have to unbolt the axles from the transaxle. So one of the things that some people have run into is these axle bolts come loose and end up falling out. So I made sure to torque these, and I did them in I think I did it in a series of 3, and that's why there's X's and another line that I have on these to make sure that they did not come out and they were all torqued properly. And these all look like they're still intact and nothing is loose. So that's a good sign. And I'm also just doing another quick peek around everything in the back, make sure that there are no leaks. And everything looks pretty good. So I think I'm ready to put the tire back on and get the car back on the ground and then turn my focus to working on the engine. So the fuel pump and fuel filter job is done. And I just got a phone call from my friend David. And if you have watched any of my previous videos, you may remember that my friend David has a 1,400 horsepower Porsche 911 996 GT2. So he wants to know if I want to join him for a short cruise. So I'm going to grab my son, we're going to get in the RS5, and we're going to go for a drive. And you guys are going to get to see some bonus footage of that 911 996 GT2. So now that that's over, I am definitely going to be putting a warning for any viewers using headphones or earbuds, but that car is absolutely insane and extremely loud. My RS5 is not quiet by any means, but there were some times when I couldn't even tell if the engine was running or not. So I want to thank my friend David for giving me a call and seeing if I wanted to join him for a little cruise around the area. So I hope you enjoyed this video today while I completed the new fuel pump and fuel filter on my 1987 944 Turbo. If you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate it if you would click the like button.
I like you a lot.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can follow along as I continue to repair, maintain, and upgrade not only my 1987 944 Turbo, but some other vehicles that I own, like my series on the 2013 BMW X3, which I will soon be moving to the mechanical repair stage. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you will be alerted when I upload new videos. And don't forget, comment down below, what do you think of that 911? And if you want to see me get this car together with that absolute beast. So thanks for sticking around to this point, and I'll catch you on the next one.